Ladies and gentlemen, big hand for Teresa. Teresa is absolutely a huge addition to our Warbirds in Review program. We're fortunate to have you. My name is Connie Boland. I am the founder of Warbirds in Review. Now, 25 years ago, I came up with this idea, and it's like, oh my word, 25 years later, what was I thinking? Sometimes the workload is pretty heavy, but I have my friend Kyle Guyett, the one person you see around here running around taking care of everything. Without Kyle, without this production team, I could not manage this. But even sometimes I say to myself, why are we doing this? But then I look at you, I look at the airplanes, I see the veterans, and I go, this is why we do this, so that all of you can enjoy this at the moment, but we can record it for history. And today is a very, very special program. Again, we could not do this without all the volunteers. You saw the line crew. This is Kyle, by the way. Kyle, come here. Yeah, she's the one that makes it all happen. Yeah, please give her a hand. She works so hard, so hard. And as do our line crew members, you saw them shuffling this morning with the rain. Can we do it here? You know, and they make it happen, moving how many airplanes if you watch that operation this morning. So a shout out to our line crew and all the other volunteers. And we have, thank you. Yes, please give them a hand. As in all of our programs, our sustaining sponsor is Scott's Miracle-Gro company. Many, many years ago, I went to Jim Hagedorn and I said, we want to pay tribute to our veterans. We want to recognize our volunteers. And he said, Scott's is in. And Jim has been here every year. He was here yesterday. He had to go to work today, but he'll be back this afternoon. So if you see Jim Hagedorn running around out here by the old Crow P-51, you can tell him a thank you. That would be very much in order. Ron and Diane Fagen provided the building behind us for our production crew. Without Ron and Diane, we wouldn't have the ability to have the production room. At some point, I'd like to get a camera in there and let you see what goes on behind the scenes here. I'm taking more of your time this morning, but this crowd makes me feel very, very good about what we do here. And this morning's program is an effort by a lot of people to get a lot of airplanes. And we'll start with this 262 from the Military Aviation Museum in Virginia Beach, Virginia. They went to extraordinary efforts. They had a little maintenance problem, but they got it here. So my hat's off to them. And Teresa Eamon, back to her, 2 minutes before she comes on to sing, I said, Jerry Yeagan, who is the founder of the Military Aviation Museum, his favorite song is White Cliffs of Dover. She sang that for Jerry, and I know his family is watching. So to Jerry, we say thank you for your part in restoring so many airplanes and maintaining them. Thank you. Yes. And a little history on this airplane. Midwest Aero restored the airplane, and it is sponsored by Mark and, let me make sure I get this right, Mark and Missy Timken. So we thank them for having this airplane here, and I believe it was last night or this morning. You'll hear from Mike a little later on. I think that named Josephine, which is our featured speaker, that was his paint scheme in World War II. So they just put that name on there for him this morning, which is pretty cool. We have another P-51 that is right over here that we realized was in Joe's paint scheme from the Korean War era. So we ran out of time to get it here, and we needed the space for all of you who are watching. So in just a few minutes, Brigadier General retired Ed McElhenney will come out with our guest and introduce all of them to you. But to introduce the program, I direct your attention to the Jumbotron, and thank you for being here.
For the first time, I was flying by jet propulsion. No engine vibrations, no torque, and no lashing sound of the propeller. Accompanied by a whistling sound, my jet shot through the air. Later, when asked what it felt like, I said, "It felt as though angels were pushing."
The Messerschmitt Me-262, nicknamed Swallow, was the world's first mass-produced jet fighter. Design work began in spring of 1939, several months before the outbreak of World War II. But there were problems with the airplane's turbojet engines, and it was mid-1944 before the first Me-262s became operational. The jet had a top speed of 560 miles per hour, more than 100 miles per hour faster than the best Allied fighter planes, but its engines were never truly dependable. As an interceptor, the Me-262 was less maneuverable than a P-51 Mustang or P-38 Lightning. But the jet's speed advantage allowed it to make hit-and-run attacks on Allied bombers and outrun the escorting fighters. The Messerschmitt Me-262 was the most advanced fighter aircraft of World War II. Germany built 3,300 Me-262s, but only about 300 ever saw combat. Many were destroyed on the ground by U.S. Army Air Force's fighters and bombers. Others were grounded by lack of fuel, pilots, and spare parts. And as Germany's transportation networks were destroyed, new Me-262s sat idle in the factory. The Messerschmitt Me-262 was a potentially devastating weapon, but it was too late and too few to save the Third Reich. In the words of Adolf Galland,
If we would have had the 262 at our disposal, even with all the delays, if we could have had in 44, let's say 300 operational, that day we could have stopped the American daytime bombing offensive. That's for sure.
Joseph Anthony Peterburs was a 20-year-old P-51 pilot with the 20th Fighter Group, 55th Fighter Squadron, operating in Europe. On April 10, 1945, Peterburs was flying an escort mission for B-17 bombers, target Germany. An Me-262, piloted by German ace Walter Shuck, shot down 2 of the B-17s. Peterburs fired his guns at Shuck's jet and damaged it. The Me-262 disappeared into a cloud bank. Peterburs dropped below the clouds and spotted a German airfield. He made several strafing passes, destroying German airplanes on the ground. When anti-aircraft fire hit Peterburs' plane, he turned his damaged P-51 toward Allied lines. But before he could reach safety, a German Focke-Wulf 190 caught up with him. With his P-51 burning, Peterburs bailed out at low altitude and was captured. But he and several others escaped from their POW camp and joined up with advancing Russian forces. After he took part in a few skirmishes between the Russians and Germans, the Russians turned him over to the Americans. Tired of the infantry, Peterburs caught a ride on a C-47 headed for Paris. He arrived in New York on June 1. In Korea, Peterburs flew 76 combat missions in the P-51. He was a staff operations officer in Vietnam and commanded tactical air control units in Europe during the Cold War. "60 years after his encounter with an Me-262 over Germany, Peterburs met Walter Shuck, the former Me-262 pilot. The two men became best friends. Shuck had also been forced to bail out that day with injuries that took him out of the war. And Shuck said that by shooting him down, Peterburs saved his life, a life he fully expected to lose flying for the lost cause of the Third Reich.
Up and at 'em.
Do you need a hand there? Supposed to have somebody walking with them, I guess.
I'm on.
Okay. Let go.
All right, I'll lead you out. Yeah, be careful over here in the grass.
I get the one with the cushion, right?
Got your cushion. You have a seat, sir.
Okay.
There you go.
Good. Thank you.
You're good?
Good. Great. Great.
Thanks, Johnny. You bet. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for that warm welcome. I'm Ed McElhenney. I'll be doing the moderating. I'll be steering the ship, so to speak. But as you can tell, our guest of honor here is at my immediate left. I don't think he needs introduction, but that is Colonel Retired Joe Peterburs. And he said it was, what, 80, he was 20 years when we shot down that airplane right there. And this is now 80 years later, okay? So here's Joe Peterburs. He will turn 101 this fall. So then we just got a couple other guys up here. We got Keegan from the Middle America Museum, and the pilot. It even says on a shirt. I like that. It says pilot. He's the guy we need to thank for bringing that Me-262 in there. That's Mike Spaulding. So, Mike, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
There's another Mike out here. Where's the other Mike? Mike out of my right there. That's another guy we're going to give just a few seconds to because, hey, the name of the game today is to listen to Joe and his stories. You know, yeah, the airplane, this is the first time this airplane has ever been here to Oshkosh. It had a little bit of a problem a couple days ago, just a small part from what I understand, but Mike said, hey, we're going to get it here, and with the help of their maintenance guys, they did. Keegan, thank you very much also. But with that, I'm just going to say, okay, you know, where do we start with a gentleman like this? He spent 36 years total in the Air Force, Army Air Corps. Yeah, if you look at his hat, he had an interesting story. He said some girl came up to him, just a couple of years ago, was it?
Yes.
And hugged him, and he's kind of going, who are you? What are you? And she says, I have this hat, but you're the only guy who can wear it. And if you look at the hat, it says World War II, Korea, and Vietnam veteran. So yeah, one of a kind right here, one of a kind. And I'll say this right now, before we go any further, I'm going to ask veterans, any veteran out there, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, please stand up. I want to recognize you and say thank you for your service. All right, the way I'm going to progress here, I think, is we're going to get some stories from Joe. Keegan is kind of our expert, okay? So if we've got some expert kind of questions, he's the guy I'm going to talk to. And then at the very end, I'm going to go, okay, with about 10 minutes to spare, I'm going to take Mike, and we're going to walk around this airplane, and we're going to do a quick walk around, talk about the airplane, some specifics, maybe some performance characteristics, and then we'll open up to questions for y'all. So I got to say, first of all, from an airplane standpoint, yeah, you see this one here, and then the other one. I'm trying to look. Where's the other in your colors? He's got this one in his colors from World War II. And Joe, I'll first ask. You know, Connie made a mistake. She said that this was named after his wife, and
No.
correct me. Okay, so
No,
set the story straight.
It was named after my fiance, Josephine. We got engaged a couple of days before I left overseas, and she kept every letter I wrote to her.
Okay, and then the follow-on to that is, what was it? You said you had to get your mother's permission?
Yeah, well, after I finished my tour and got home and was put on leave, and we're busy getting all the paperwork together to get married, and in the process we found out I had to get my mom's permission to get married because I hadn't turned 21 yet.
Anyway, his airplane is Josephine, and that was stenciled on there, I think, last night in your honor.
Yeah.
So we've got that one in his Korean P-51 also. But with that, let's go get to the meat of the mission. Okay, the day that you were out there and you shot that down. Okay.
Okay.
And really, I guess that was your first encounter with Walter also at that point.
Absolutely.
Didn't know it at the time, but you later found that out. But tell me how that transpired, if you will. You know, we know that the ME-262 had been designed to be basically a high-speed interceptor. Go in there and shoot down the B-17s and get out of Dodge. Okay, but now's where you come in. How did it happen?
Well, we were escorting some 450 B-17s to Oranienburg, just north of Berlin. And just as the bombers were over the target, we got hit by a swarm of ME-262s. I was flying high cover about 5,000 feet above the bombers, and I saw this 262 blow up a 17, and I rolled over immediately and started down after him with the throttles wide open. And he was pulling into another B-17 just as I pulled into his 6 o'clock position and started firing. And I got some hits in his left engine, and he started burning. He made him roll over to the right and started down to the deck. And I was chasing him, but I was starting to lose my speed, the speed advantage I did have. Of course, he started speeding it up. So anyway, at about 3,000 feet, he disappeared into the clouds. So I left him. I wasn't going to follow him into the clouds. And so he was burning when he went in, so I just let it go. And I looked over, and I saw a airfield just loaded with German aircraft. And it looked like a real good opportunity to destroy some of the enemy. So I started strafing, and I made too many passes and destroyed 5 aircraft on the ground, set a hangar on fire, and on my last pass on a FW-200, a Condor, big 4-engine aircraft. As I was coming in, I felt a thud, and I blew the Condor, and then I was pulling out, and I felt another thud, and I got oil over my windscreen, and I knew I was hit bad, so I made it up to 10,000 feet. You want me to go continue?
Yeah. He said he made it to 10,000 feet. Then he had a decision to make. You know, he said, "Hey, the Russian front was this way. The Allies, if you were that way." And you had, and so from there you had to say, "Am I going to be able to make it back to the good guys over here, or am I going to have to go to the Russians?" So which way did you go?
Yeah, I went west. I decided to go west. It was about 80 miles to Magdeburg, where the Allied forces were fighting, and I thought I could make it. But as I was got to about 20, 30 miles away from Magdeburg, I was down to 1,000 feet, and I knew I wasn't going to make it. So I decided I was going to bail out, so I unhook everything and get ready to bail out, and I look over to my 3 o'clock position, and there's an FW-190 coming at me. I'm burning on the right side of the aircraft, so just as he's coming in, and I pull the aircraft over to the right and get on the head-on, and he fires his rockets, and he passes me, and he misses, fortunately, and he just keeps going. I'm burning, so he figures I'm done for anyway. So by this time, I'm down to 500 feet, and I said, I'm too low to bail out. I'm going to have to belly this in, and then I remember I had a hook that I can't get unhooked up again, and so I can't belly it in, so I have to go over the side. So about 400 feet, I went over the side and let go at about 300 feet and pull, and you're supposed to go out of the right side because the torque will throw you away from the aircraft. You go out the left side, it'll throw you into the aircraft. Well, it threw me into the aircraft. I hit my right knee on the horizontal stabilizer, pulled the ripcord, the chute opened, and I hit the ground hard. And it was immediately captured, and
All right, hold on.
Okay.
We're going to stop. There's more to follow there, but let's go back to the initial intercept and stuff like that. I want to talk a little bit about, had you been pre-briefed? I mean, had you fought Me-262s before, and what were you told? How were you going to shoot them down?
Well, we were briefed as soon as I got there, because we had encountered already 262s when I arrived in November of '44. And the briefing was that they were 100 miles an hour faster than we were. They wouldn't be able to dogfight with you, and they don't dogfight with you. So you have to get them in their most vulnerable stages of flight. And the most vulnerable is while they're taking them off and landing. And many of the kills, if not most of the kills, were during that phase. In a dogfight, there would be no contest because the P-51 could outmaneuver them because, of course, they had a higher speed, but they did have the maneuverability. So they would even try to dogfight. And then the third way would be if you're able to compensate for the speed differential. Well, I had 5,000 foot on them, so I let gravity and the power of my engine bring me up to his speed, and it was basically getting your aircraft up to that speed, and I almost hit compressibility as I was, which was approaching the speed of sound. When I came into him, the controls started acting up, and anyway, I got him, and then from there on, I started losing my advantage, and he disappeared into the clouds.
Okay. I'm going to ask Keegan from a performance standpoint. Okay, max additional. How much faster were they than the P-51?
Like you said, over 100 miles an hour faster. So, conditions and altitude have a lot to do with the performance you can drive out of the jet. One particular thing the German pilots were cautioned to look out for was getting into that maneuvering fight because the airframe couldn't withstand the stress. One of the significant loss factors for the 262 was actually over-G'ing the tail structure, trying to maneuver the airplane at high speed.
Okay, how about armament? Let's see, you can see all 4 gun barrels up there. And I'll ask Keegan first. Okay, armament, what did it carry?
It's got the 4 high caliber cannons in the nose up there. They really were aiming
30 millimeter,
30
right?
millimeter,
30
yeah.
millimeter cannons.
They're
okay.
up there looking to, obviously destroy bombers in the bomber stream. So one thing Joe was telling us about a moment ago was that they would porpoise above the bomber stream. They'd come in and hit one, kind of come back up, regain the advantage, come back in and hit another.
Yep.
Yep. And truly speaking, I talked to Joe earlier. He said, hey, the guy Walter, who was flying his airplane or that he shot down, really didn't know Joe was even there. He said he was concentrating more on shooting down that B-17 than anything else. And so he used his 5,000 foot advantage. Hey, unloaded, gained the speed, took a shot, and then away you went.
Yeah.
So, so yeah. And as it turned out, also, and we'll follow on to this part of the story. You're kind of going, how do you know who he shot down? And I'll let you continue with that. The guy's name was Walter Shuck, and go ahead, Joe.
Well, the pilot of the 262 was Oberleutnant Walter Shuck, Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross with palms. He had 206 aerial victories confirmed, 198 in the ME-109 and 8 in the ME-262. In fact, on the day he checked out in the ME-262, he was near Berlin. He was directed to a flight of P-51s, and he shot down 2 P-51s on the day he checked out. So he was a tremendous pilot. And
how did you determine that was really the guy?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all you know is you watch this guy go into the clouds, and you said,
I saw him go into the clouds. He was burning, but I didn't know what happened to him, so I just went out, and my claim to fame was shooting up a bunch of aircraft and raising havoc at Schoenwald, the airfield, and I never even put a claim in. And then I go through my career and end up going to Korea and Vietnam and spending 36 years in the service. And I retire in Colorado Springs, and in 1996 I get a letter from Germany from a Werner Dietrich, who was a 13-year-old boy when I bailed out over Berg, and he was in the ditches in Berg watching the air battles go off, and he saw me come over. He saw the FW-190 make a pass at me. He saw me bail out. He saw where the aircraft hit, and so on. And Berg was in East Germany, and he became a amateur historian and war buff. And when Germany and East Germany reunited, the TV stations were recovering aircraft and making specials out of them. And he talked them in, and he said, I know exactly where this aircraft. So he went. Anyway, they went and made a special about digging up this P-51. And then it was Werner said he's going to find the pilot. So for a year he was looking for the pilot. Could never find him. And finally got a lead from the 20th Fighter Group that probably was me. And so he wrote a letter, and they recovered the aircraft. And he wrote a letter and asked, and I said, yes, everything jives. That's probably my aircraft. So the whole TV crew come back over to the States, and we're talking, and of course, Werner thinks that I was in the battle over Magdeburg. He didn't know I was, and I told him about the jet encounter, and he said when he goes back to Germany, he's going to find a jet pilot. And he goes back, and a month later, he comes back, he says it was Walter Shuck. Well, we didn't try to take that, was probably maybe 50-50 I shot him down. Anyway, several years go by, and in 2002, Walter's biographer was contacted me and asked me some information about the first mission. I wrote back, and he took the information, and about 2 days later, he came back and said, 100% sure you're the one that shot down Walter Shuck. He said that, they'd been looking ever since the war ended to find out who shot down Walter Shuck, and nobody matched the thing. Well, I never claimed, so they never even knew that I encountered him. And so anyway, he came back to 100% sure. I said, how do you know you're 100% sure? He said, well, you, in your narrative, say you saw this 262 shot down 2 B-17s in a row. And that mission, Walter was the only one. In fact, Walter shot down 4 B-17s in a row. He shot down 2 in a box before he came over to our box, and I saw the 2 And so Walter knows I shot him down, and I know I shot him down, and that's enough for both of us. So that's how it came about.
All right, but then let's continue. From what I understand, he became a close friend of you and your family. Is that right?
Yes. In 2005, Walter was coming to visit his buddy from the Luftwaffe. They flew together at Petsamo in northern Finland against the Russians. And they wanted me to come out and meet him, and I was retired in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I decided to go ahead and one of the reasons they wanted to meet, because they had done a poster of me shooting down, and they wanted us to sign it and that sort of thing, and so I went out and I met him on the 18th of May of 2005 at the Old Bold Pilots Club at the Wendy's restaurant.
I guess you qualified, huh? Old Pilots.
We were both qualified. I often said to Walter, I said, hey, when we were young and full of piss and vinegar, we were going to live forever. He said, I'm afraid we aren't going to. So anyway, Walter and I became close friends. Walter and I became close friends, and we did many shows together. And I went to Germany several times, and he would be to the States, and we would sit together and sign books and
well, he claimed that you saved his life. Is that not right?
Oh, yeah. And when we were at the air shows, he'd always tell the people, he said, he called me Joey. He says, this is Joey, and I saved his life. Because had he not sprained his legs when he bailed out, if I had not shot him down, he would have been flying the next day, and he certainly would have been killed either the next day or the next, because we had not only air superiority, we had air supremacy. In fact, the day of the mission, the 10th of April of 45, there were some 50-some-odd 262s in the air, and most of them were shot. Were shot down on that mission. They put up the whole force of the ME-262s, and it was a bad day for them.
It was. We talked earlier, and he said, we became friends, and we had the same outlook. He said, what? He said,
oh yeah,
I was doing.
We had people that asked, well, how come you guys are friends? Aren't you enemies? You're fighting in the air, and I'd say, well, my job was to escort the bombers, protect them from the Luftwaffe, and get them to their target so they could bomb them. And I did my job. And Walter's job was to protect the homeland, and that's what he did. And we both feel that we both did our jobs, and we did them pretty damn good. And that's the way, that was our attitude.
I think that's called chivalry in the old days. I think that's chivalry right there. All right, let's go back now. Okay, you hit the ground after one swing in the parachute and you get captured. Okay,
yeah.
You end up in a stalag. But then you managed to go under the fence, as you said.
Yeah, right.
You escaped,
yeah.
Okay?
Well, I ended up in a couple of pre-POW camps. The last one was the Luckenwalde Stalag 3, which was a Russian POW camp. It was all Russians, and then we escaped. Of course, the Russians were fighting in Berlin, and Luckenwalde is a suburb of Berlin. And so there were 5 of us that escaped together. 2 were sergeants from B-17s that were shot down. Another was Lieutenant Stewart, and another was Captain Tracy, both shot down, Strafing airfield, and then myself. So the 5 of us, we took off towards Berlin, and as we were going to Berlin, we ran into a Russian tank unit headed west, and we were able to join them, and we fought with them through the Battle of Jitterbug up through along the Rhine, up to, along the Elbe, up to Wittenberg on the Elbe, where I was retrieved and brought back under U.S. control and ended up in Paris and then redistribution camp and then home.
I understand. All right, I'm going to give you a break for a second. Talk to Keegan a little bit about the airplane. And I got to get this right. Connie was going to harass me. A reproduction or a replica, okay? This is really not, I mean, it was, and I'll let Keegan talk to you about it. But, I mean, it's the right size, the right shape. Engines are a little bit different. But go ahead, Keegan.
So it is either or both. It is a replica, technically.
And what's it called? I called it a swallow, and I've seen it called a swallow. He says, oh, no, don't say that.
Well, we'll hit on that in a minute. That's
okay.
A subject of hot debate for everyone. What was the airplane actually nicknamed by the pilots that flew it versus what the Luftwaffe had on its government paperwork.
But where did this airplane come from? And
so this airplane is part of the batch of 5 aircraft that were built off of Vera, the aircraft that was recovered by Watson's Whizzers that's now on display at the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, Florida. You may remember there was a project that kick-started early in the 1990s to basically build an airplane off of that original that had been recovered from the Navy facilities at Willow Grove in Pennsylvania. And as often happens with these things, this discussion became, if we could duplicate the parts of this as we restored it, why couldn't we do that 5 times and then have 5 of these airplanes out flying in the world? And so that project was originally begun in Fort Worth, Texas. Ultimately, it kind of descended into some lawsuits and things like that. But the airplane fuselages will travel to Legend Flyers of Everett, Washington, just north of Seattle, where Bob Hammer, a retired Boeing engineer, will take up the torch and kind of bear the challenge of trying to get these airplanes finished and out flying. So rather notably, the Collings Foundation here in the United States has an operating example. We had ours operating some years ago. It's almost a decade that it was stored and non-flying. But there is also one in Germany with the Messerschmitt Foundation. They fly it as part of the history of their company. So the project was really oriented around getting flying examples of these airplanes out there so that people could appreciate the tremendous technological leap that these airplanes represented. I don't know your personal experience on it, but a lot of Mustang pilots said it was like they were standing still when they would see these things just kind of blow past them. And that's a sensation that you do get from seeing these. And I think having them here together, reuniting them with people like you, that's why these airplanes were built, so that we could be here, be transported back in time. We're going to see it fly later today, and I think that's going to give everyone a chance to experience some small part of what you experienced back then.
Mm-hmm. How about engine-wise? From what I understand, that was something that was a tremendous problem way back when. The initial airplanes had big problems with the engines.
There were just as many holdups as there were lucky breaks in the development of the 262. It's fairly remarkable that under the pressures of what they were facing from the Allied strategic bombing campaign, that the Germans were able to develop this airplane, bring it out, and make it operational. But it had just a heck of a lot of teething problems. They couldn't nail the metallurgy for the engines. They didn't have the cobalt and the nickel that you needed to be able to heat treat all the components to be able to sustain the high temperatures inside the engines. So you had an approximate service life of 25 hours, maybe, generously. But that depended entirely on whether or not the pilot surged the throttles. Mm-hmm. So experienced pilots would learn not to come onto the throttle too quickly, not to heat the engine up, not to create hot spots in it. So that's obviously, the big thing people know about the 262 was it was let down by its engines. In reality, it was let down by several other things as well. The Luftwaffe studied this issue and found that, sure, 33% of their losses were being driven by the engines, but 34% were being driven by the landing gear. So you saw in the video that the early examples were tail dragger airplanes. They had some problems with getting the aircraft off the ground. At about 120 knots, you had to kick the brakes to raise the tail up to get the airplane off the runway. But they switched to this tricycle gear configuration that wasn't common at the time, And that led to a lot of problems there as well. So you had your 33% on the engines, 34% on the landing gear, and then the significant percentage of the balance was pulling the tail off in maneuvers. So it was an airplane very much ahead of its time, but it did have all of the kind of teething problems you would expect from that. We like to say around the office that it didn't change the course of the war, but it changed the course of history. And to see where this airplane fits into the story of America and to world history in general, see it as the birth of the modern age, and see that the airplane that looks the most like it in the wing and everything is going to be the F-86. Now, that's not accidental.
Yeah.
Okay, but to keep a guy like that safe and sound up there, what'd they do? What'd they put in these things?
It has CJ610s on it. It is old Learjet engines, and I think, Mike, at the start of your career, you flew behind some engines like this.
Yep, in Learjets.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're much more reliable now, and engines are basically not an issue at all. So.
Well, I mean, they are on Saturday morning when you're trying to come to AirVenture, right? They're so, relatively speaking, not an issue. Let's knock on some wood here, but we had an oil pressure sensor give us some grief, and so I know that all of you guys have been up here asking us, when is it going to get here? And there was starting to be a little bit of a joke passed around that at Reading, it was just about to come out. It was just about to come out as the rainstorms kind of kept it inside, but. Then we did the same thing here. We had the maintenance challenge, and we said to everyone, it'll be here, and everyone was like, when?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, thanks. All right, I'm going to do a quick walk around with Mike here. He flew it in here. He's going to fly it out of here, and he's got probably more time in this airplane than anybody else at this point. So let's do a quick walk around. Joe, don't go anywhere. We got more stories that we want to hear from you. So we're going to walk around the airplane. And Mike, go ahead. Start stem to stern and talk a little bit about this thing.
Well, we'll start here. If you're going to get in the airplane, they built convenient steps, handles. Climb yourself up in and get in and open it. You can walk around on the top. The slats, this was all great German engineering for back then, no computers or anything. These slats are operated by air and speed. 150 knots, they kind of start up, and at 200 knots, they're all the way up.
So they're just spring-loaded?
Nope, no, they're just...
Oh, they just float?
They just float.
Wow,
yep.
Okay.
So there's nothing that controls them other than your airspeed. The engines here, as they said, CJ610s. I got the Jumo engine had a third the horsepower that these do, so it performs very well. It accelerates pretty well. This little thing here looks like a little knob. That's a little starter like your lawnmower. There's a little motor in there, a gasoline motor that they'd start first, which would start the Jumo engine.
Wow.
And that's how they got it running. The landing gear is actually the original type landing gear. It has the same type of actuators. A lot of new jets today have in their gear actuators have the down locks and the up locks inside the actuator. Well, these still did too back then. The gear is operated by an electric motor that runs a hydraulic motor pump, so it's hydraulically operated. The up blocks are pressure. The lights are pressure. So it's kind of weird. It took a little getting used to. When you put the gear up, it goes all the way up. The lights come out. We still got two green lights. So it's like, is it up or is it down? But as soon as the pressure comes off of it, the green lights go out. If they don't go out, then there's something going on. But it took a little while to figure out, okay, that's just the way it was back then, but it works. Let's see what we got. The guns are up here. Nose gear, this is kind of the weak link of the airplane. You don't tow with it. You just steer it. If you noticed on the video when they pulled it out, they've got a cable that goes on it, which kind of goes on a movable tow bar. So it's actually pulling by the mains and steering it with just a steering thing. You always put the locks on, the ground locks, before you move it. Just because of some of what I was saying, the actuators are, you can't trust the locks. There's no pressure on them, so you want to make sure that they can't fold. Let's see what else we got here.
How about the cockpit? Pretty roomy? You got a lot of space in there? Is it pretty tight?
After you're in there, it's not too bad.
Okay.
I say the hardest thing about flying this airplane is getting strapped in and getting everything on, because it's kind of hard to reach it all. But after you're in, it's actually pretty nice. As far as jets go, it's a pretty simple system setup. There's not a lot of fancy things on the airplane. It doesn't, when you start it, you actually have to stop the start sequence when it gets to a certain speed. It doesn't do it automatically like even like the Learjets did. So it's a little more manual and pretty basic.
How about approach speeds and stuff like that?
Well, let's start with the takeoff before we land. And it's sitting at idle, you have half power all the time. It's 52%. So it's kind of wanting to move. It's wanting to go, which I'll get to later about what our long-term problem was with that. But bring it up to, it says 94. I go a little more. I like to get it moving. At 100 knots, you rotate, and it just nicely rotates, and it starts to accelerate pretty well. VMC is 135. It gets to that pretty quick, so you don't have to worry too much about it. And some test flying I did with it. Below VMC with it, engine out, it doesn't really want to roll like they say it will. It has very good aileron authority, so it kind of just wants to turn. So if you got room to roam, it'll go and it'll accelerate out of it. So you're climbing out. It quickly goes to 250 knots. The bad thing with this is you have 3,000 pounds of fuel, and on takeoff it's burning 4,000 pounds an hour. So you want to get it kind of pulled back. You only have maybe an hour. You want to be on the ground, and you're going somewhere. That's why it took so many stops for anybody that was watching. It gets there fast, but it doesn't go far. So.
How about single engine? If you lost a motor,
engine,
it does okay?
Yeah, it does fine. This thing really flies like any modern jet airplane. There's no quirks about how it flies compared to a modern day jet. You set your ref speed just like you would in a modern day jet based on your weight, and that's about 120 in here, and just fly it down. Now, when you touch down, I remember at idle, you're still running over 50% power. So it doesn't want to slow down. So you have to have brakes. You have to have good brakes. And that was the issue we've had, finding good brakes for 10 years, trying to get something that will work. Because when we first started flying it, sadly, when you line up on the runway to take off, the thing on your mind was, can I stop when I get back? and you steer it by differential braking. It doesn't steer on its own. So just as bad, if you only lose one brake, you're going off the side. So that was what was always on your mind. Now it isn't. I don't know if Ike is here, but
yeah, if Ike and Allison are
Yeah.
here, can we get you to wave your hand or something?
Is Ike here?
So we should probably say that the work that was done to get the airplane back flying was done by Ike and Allison. They've become great members of our team. Ike Birchinall of Paris, Texas. There's no project that they aren't, I'd say, crazy enough to undertake. So we called them up and just said, we've got these problems with the airplane. We've done the engineering to resolve the challenge of how we think we think we can get a functional brake, but how do we get it on there and get it on there in time for Oshkosh? And they said, well, we'll just move into the hangar and live there until it's done, if that's all right with you. So they brought their 3 Bostons, which were core members of the maintenance team. Yeah. But if we get a round of applause for them, they're right
he
there.
wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. Yeah.
Come on, come out. Yeah. I got to say thank you. Thank you for having
Every
that
airplane
thing.
needs a
Making
good
it work.
mechanic.
Thank you.
That-
Every airplane needs a good mechanic.
Oh, yeah.
So I honestly go
Good to
fly
meet
it
you.
now, and I don't
Hey,
even think
great.
about whether I can stop or not. The brakes are really, really good, probably even better than they need to be, if that's possible. But yeah, it's excellent now. Now it's just a nice flying airplane. You can feel like you can go fly it comfortably and not worry about it, other than running out of gas because it uses it really fast. The thing about these engines is they burn a lot of fuel, but in the Learjets and all, they were only fuel efficient up at 40,000 feet in that range. And they were only burning the same there at cruise speed as they were idling down here. So we're only VFR. We can't go over like 17,000, and they're not very fuel efficient there. So if you get a day where you can only go 3,000-4,000 feet, you're really sucking it up, and you're not going to go far. But, you know, it is what it is.
All right, thank you. I want to get another Joe Peterburs story here, but I want to say thanks to Mike Van Vadebancourt. And we say thanks to him for the P-51s that are here. And Connie,
Thank you, Mike. And before you wrap it up, I have something for Joe.
Okay,
whenever
well,
you're
then I'm not done yet. He told me a funny story at the end when he got captured, okay, then he escaped from the Stalag, and when he escaped, it was primarily a Russian camp. But you had how many Americans there with you when
There
you
were
escaped?
5 of us.
Five altogether, okay, and then you heard that he bumped into the Russian. One of those Americans could speak Russian, so he talked to the Russian tank guy, and next thing you know, they're with the Russians, you know. But then he said he turned around. Go ahead, tell the story. What happened?
Well, after a couple of days, I'm looking around, and I was in a sort of a different section as the other 4, and I look around, and I don't see the other guys. I wonder what the hell's going on here. And what happened? I'm trying to get some information out of the Russians, and of course, communicate. I don't know if it was a communication problem or if they just didn't want to tell me. But anyway, 60 years later, I find out from one of the guys that was with us that an American general came across to meet the Russians, to meet this group, and in a helicopter, and he brought the other 4 guys back with him. And
so no man left behind.
I
Well,
guess I'm the exception to the rule. No man left behind. But I spent the rest of the next 8-10 days, something like that, with the Russians by myself, and I was retrieved by an American Army patrol from the Russians, and the Russians were a little reluctant to let me go, and there was a little arguing between the master sergeant in charge of the patrol and the lieutenant in charge of the Russian thing, but they finally let me go, and I went with the Army group, and we patrolled around on the way back to Holly. Their base was in Holly, and from there I got tired of them, and I said, to hell, I'm going to take off, and started walking back. And now you got to remember, I'm a POW, and I meet this American. I'm back with Americans, an Army patrol of 4 guys, all enlisted, and I go back to Holly, which is the headquarters of the division, and nobody's seeing me. There's no officer around saying, hey, where are you from? Anything. Anyway, I spent a couple of days with them, and I got tired of them, and I said, I'm going. And I started walking west, and I got about 5 miles, and I run across the C-47 parked in a field, open field, and I'm walking up to it, and there's about 15 really emaciated souls there waiting, standing around, and they were basically the Walking Dead in striped suits. And we knew nothing about what was going on, about the Holocaust and about the politics of it all. And I walk up to the two pilots, the pilot and co-pilot of the C-47, and say, what's going on? He said, well, these are some political prisoners. They call them political prisoners. And they didn't know about the Holocaust either. And we're bringing them back to Paris. I said, well, that sounds good. How about a ride? So I ended up in Paris with them. And, of course, I could not communicate with them. They were just in a state of shock. You could tell. I mean, it was really a horrible such a situation to be involved with. Anyway, I got back to Paris and got stabbed and deloused, and now I'm under control and my wandering days are over.
Okay, Connie, you go ahead. Before we open up for questions, it looks like you've got a microphone, so you got it.
Yeah, they made the mistake, gave me a microphone again. Joe, we'd like to say thank you again for being here. Thank you for this very large crowd. We have one of our members who is known for making these really nice chocks that go under the airplanes here. He made a very special one for you.
Oh,
and it's
that is really
Josephine, the Mustang, on that
Oh,
side.
wow.
And then and that's
Jackson.
Dave Jackson, who made the chock, honoring
Oh,
Joe
wow.
Peterburs. So that is from Chaco, is his name.
Is Chaco here, by the way? Where is Chaco?
Maybe he is.
That'll
maybe
keep me
not.
stopped, right?
That'll
It's a real
stop you
shock.
if you start rolling down a hill.
Right.
You know, Bree can put that under you,
Right.
and we'll keep you from rolling. So
Thank you very
that's
much.
just a little memento
Okay.
from Warbirds
Thank you very
from
much.
Chaco.
All right, we're not done yet. We got questions, and then afterwards, as you might expect, Joe has written a book, and the books are back there in Warbirds merchandise. And after the show, he'll be back there to sign the books. So, so if you want a really interesting book, I got to say, when I picked it up, I didn't put it down. I said, it's one of these where you go, huh? 20 years old, you know, shot down, or shoot an airplane down, gets shot down, a prisoner of war, escapes, and then 36 years later, he retires from our service. So, so with that, I'm going to open it up to questions right now, and
Okay,
say,
okay, I'm on again. This is Chaco.
Oh, here's Chaco.
This is Chaco. This is the gentleman who made that chock. So
Oh,
thank
wow.
you, Chaco.
Hey, thank you very much. Really great. Oh. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, you got it. Okay.
All right, Mike, can I have the mic now?
Do
Okay.
you guys all feel like you're in the family now with us too?
Yeah. Okay, we've got, Kyle is pointing over this direction.
I'm gonna go first. I have the mic right here, so I'm gonna go first.
Yes, please.
And I don't really have a question, more of a statement. I'm Sabrina. I'm Joe's granddaughter. This is Hannah, his great-granddaughter. Thank you. And Joe is from Wisconsin. Joe, this is his home state, Wisconsin. And surprisingly enough, there's a lot of family here. Can I get his family to stand? Everybody in his family, please stand. This is a surprise for Papa Joe. And then we have some great friends here. I just really want to say thank you to Connie and Kyle and everyone here at Air Adventure and Warbirds in Review. And Mike, turn around. I've already cried my eyes out. Josephine was not on that aircraft yesterday when we saw it. And so for you guys to put that on there, Josephine was grandma. I just want to say thank you so much for making this so special for us. Grandpa, don't cry. Thank you so much for making this so special. And the ME-262 Keegan, I mean, this is amazing to have this at this stage of life for him. A lot of great things have been done for him, but this right here, it takes the cake. And we know you because of Bud Anderson, and we just want to say that at Papa Joe's 100th birthday, we gave out little bottles of Old Crow in memory of Bud. So we love you. We can't say enough about this. We just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. I love you, Papa Joe.
Love you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I add one thing, Ed, just to say, from our end, it's been an incredible pleasure, an honor to bring the airplane up here and to have it here for you to enjoy. When Connie told us that they were trying to work on getting you up here, that's what pushed us over the edge on making the decision to get the airplane back in the air, because we just, all of us, don't know how many more opportunities we're really going to have to do this. And it'd be a crying shame for it to sit for even 2 more years in the hangar, not come up here and bring it up here to be here with your airplane and with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Keegan.
Thank you, Keegan.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm gonna give Mike a minute. We're going a little off script. If we'd had a script, this is off script. Mike, it was an incredible tribute to Joe for you to put Josephine on that airplane just last night.
Yeah, it was a little thing that we had planned as a surprise, and we judged yesterday afternoon, and right before we put the canopy cover on, we decided to slap Josephine on there. But yeah, we're really excited to be here. My hat's off to all this, and the owner, Mark and Missy Timpkin, who couldn't be here, are very excited to showcase the airplane here at Oshkosh, and for you, Joe. And we're real excited here at Midwest Aero to be able to present the airplane. It's a fresh restoration, as you might be able to tell. It's got a little less than 10 hours on it, so, and we're really excited to be here, and thank you for being a big part of this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. All right, now we can open up to some questions. So I see one over there in the corner. Yes, sir. Uh-oh. Maybe.
Hello, test,
Hey,
test. There we go.
Yep, you're good.
Just curious about the engines. You spoke about the engines that are in it now. I'm just comparing those to the Juno engines that were in there, thrust and fuel consumption. Do you have any comparisons on that?
I don't know what the exact fuel consumption was on the Jumo, but they could only fly 60 to 90 minutes as well. This will probably fly 90 minutes, but I won't be doing that. I've flown it a little over an hour. We're going to upgrade it a little bit. This is a little bit rudimentary type, but it's pretty basic. The fuel gauges in here aren't very good. It has 4 tanks. One tank up here runs the left engine, and then there's a combination of 3 that run the right engine. And you have to move fuel from the second tank to the third tank, and then the 4th tank flows into the 3rd tank, and then it goes to the right engine. So there's going to be a test there. But you got fuel flow gauges, and they just stay way up there, and that's all you know. And you just try to. I'm still learning it myself, because even when we had it before, we never really took it anywhere. So this is really the first big trip, other than going to Reading, to really kind of experiment to see whether you climb fast and go straight like we did in the Learjets, and then stay up there and pull it to idle and come down. Or if you're going to go low, you just pull it back after you take off. But anyway, you're burning 1,500 pounds to 2,000 pounds an hour, depending on your altitude to cruise. And like I said, you only have 3,000 pounds of fuel. And you're burning 4,000 pounds an hour on takeoff and the initial climb. So it's all still a guessing game. As soon as we get a good fuel flow system in there and a fuel management system, so we know what we got, how far we can go, we're probably stopping sooner than I would probably need to, which is better than not stopping when you should have. But so anyway, does that answer your question? Yeah.
All right. Where else?
Quick question. You said the third of what?
Where are we looking here? Mary's? Okay, go ahead, over on this side.
You said one of the third of the problems was the tail. Did you reinforce it in this model, or is it built like the original?
It's built like the original, but it's not flown like the original. So one of the things that Bob was very meticulous about doing in putting these airplanes together was creating kind of operational constraints that help you out with some of those things. So the maximum speed for the airplane is lower than it was, and
it's 350 knots.
Yeah,
where it used to be 560. Another thing I haven't worked out yet is the airspeed indicator is indicating red line is 305. So I don't know if somebody got dyslexia or something when they painted the number on there. So anyway, I don't go over 305 yet until I can be sure. But that's really an FAA requirement that slowed us down to make us go slower. Yeah.
How about ceiling, real quick? I got to ask, what was ceiling on the original?
Oh, on the original?
Yeah.
37,000 feet plus.
Okay, all right. And what have you had this thing up to so far?
Well, we're strictly VFR, so we have to stay below 18.
Okay.
18,000. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Other questions? There, in the orange. Oh, no, wait, somebody's got a mic in the corner there. There you go, in the corner.
Hi, Did Germany ever attempt to install a drop tank? And is there any possibility of
Yeah,
putting
any drop
external
tanks on this thing ever?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
They had different nose configurations for the airplane. With they made a bombardier nose, they made a big gun nose. They some of this was tied up in the constraints of their manufacturing capacity being decimated by the 400 bombers that you were escorting in, that day. So I don't know that they necessarily felt like they needed longer legs. The great limitation was how much ammunition you had in the cannons.
Yeah.
You had to get the airplane up there, fend off the B-17s. At that point in the war, they're basically flying directly up to intercept them as opposed to flying over all of occupied Europe.
They also had rockets on these things too, didn't they? They shot some rockets off them.
They did have rockets that they shot off them. The airplane that's displayed at Evergreen shows some of the kind of anti-bomber rocket armament that they had. They did make them, capable of carrying bombs. Obviously, Hitler had the idea that it would be a fabulous bomber, but it wasn't necessarily. As we learn later, in Korea and Vietnam, sometimes bombing accuracy comes from being slow enough to see what you're doing and where you're going.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. All right. Now, up there in the orange.
I have a question for Joel. Was your gun camera recovered on your P-51 of the shoot down of the 262?
No, the gun camera was not recovered. It was, it probably was recovered, but it was 80 or 75 years later, 10 feet under the ground, so it wasn't very good.
And my second question is, what time is this jet going to fly this afternoon?
About 2:20.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. One more? Oh, there's one down low here. Yep.
Hello?
Go ahead, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
You're on.
I got a question for Joe. Which one would you fly if you had the option in combat? Which one?
What? Well, what would I would rather have flown the P-51.
Good answer.
Good answer. Yep. All right.
As a little aside here, Walter told me how he was checked out in the 262. He came down from the north flying the ME-109s. He ended up reported to the commander of the 262 outfit. He said, "I'm here to check out." He said, "Okay, go down to the end of the runway and watch them land. And when you think you've landed to take off, or when you think you're ready to fly, let me know." And 3 days later, he said, "I think I can fly." So check out, and off he went. And that was amazing to me with that technology that you had.
So one of the things that was exceedingly difficult for them to kind of work out about making the airplanes operational was how do you train to fly a jet? So they weren't sure if they should take their best 109 pilots who were skilled interceptors and put them into this with 2 engines to manage, or if they should take the remnants of their bomber force who were used to managing multiple engines and then stick them in the airplane. So there was a lot of trial and error going on with how you learn to fly one.
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, we got one more question right here.
I've got a question for Joe. On my drive up from Georgia, I was listening to a higher call and learned that about of the 28,000 German aviators, only about 1,200 of them survived the war. And I was kind of curious, as the years went on and you found out that Walter Shuck was still alive, what was that feeling of learning that you didn't have to take a life to save so many?
He wants to know how you felt when you found that you didn't have to take a life. When you became friends with Walter, you realized that you had not killed a person.
I never, in all of my combat, I never concerned myself with it. I was not, in the first place, my whole attitude, the fighter pilot's attitude, is you're not there to kill the guy, you're there to kill the aircraft. And when they say, when you say you got, what you say you got 21 kills, you're not bragging about killing 21 people, you're bragging about killing 21 aircraft. So that's the attitude that I had and that most of my friends had, and that was basically the attitude of all fighter pilots. You're out there to destroy the machine, not the man.
And if I can interject here, I'll say, you know, from Bud Anderson, Bud used to say it was kill or be killed. And in addition to that, you weren't just knocking down an airplane, you were potentially saving 10 men in every B-17
That's
that
right.
that person would have shot down. So it was a duty thing.
Yeah.
I just want to say too, every night he goes to sleep, he prays for the souls that he does know that he took. And that's really important because he knows that that was part of his job that he had to do.
That's what he said. He said, I was doing my job, and you did your job very well, Joe.
Did the job.
This is for the restorers of it. Half the battle seems to be
Okay, so this is for Keegan, is what you're saying. This is
Or some compilation of the team here.
Okay.
Gonna be one more.
Just an Eagle jet.
So we're putting up with a lot of jet noise right now. One thing I would say is, can you imagine hearing one for the first time? Yeah.
You know what we used to call those? A waste of a perfectly good engine. That was coming from an F-16 driver. All right, go ahead.
For the restoration with 3D metal printing advancing and everything else like that, what do you guys see as maintaining the viability of keeping these airplanes flying? Because they can be restored relatively easily, but the blueprints and CAD engineering, and what's kind of the plan to keep them going?
That might actually be a Mike Vadaboncourt question because I think that's their specialty. Can we get Mike a microphone?
Well, there's certainly some differences in how we can apply technology or new technology, manufacturing technologies to that airplane versus that airplane, experimental versus a limited standard category aircraft. It's not standard, but we have to treat it a little bit more like standard. So I think there's certainly a lot of reverse engineering capabilities that are going into the production of all these airplanes, and I think it's only going to make life easier for all of us, and I think it'll benefit everyone. Air Corps Aviation, of course, has taken a big step in that, and they've helped multiple airplanes here as well as us. And yeah, I think the future looks really bright for restoring all these airplanes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's what EA Oshkosh Air Venture and EA Warbirds of America do. We bring all the people together. We give somewhere for them to network, to share their information. So sharing the information amongst the community is huge because this is a really close-knit group and a very special group. And this is where we come together. And Warbirds of America motto is keep them flying. So we support Warbirds of America, supports them as much as we can.
It's a great organization to join. You all should be Warbirds of America members because you obviously are passionate about preserving this history and doing great things like we're doing here today.
Joe, I met you briefly the other day. I don't know if you remember me, but I said you look just like my dad. You've got the same hat, the same mustache, the same thin lips, the same eyes, and it makes me cry. He passed away when he was 88, back in 2014. But I just love watching you there because it reminds me of him. But also, I just want to honor you for what you did, and what he did as well. You both went through 3 wars. And I'm just so thankful you're here. But my main question I wanted to ask was, how interested were you in flying prior to the war? Were you a certificate pilot? Did you have a lot of interest beforehand? And and afterwards, did you?
Were you interested in flying before the war?
No, I was, when the war started, I was at St. Nazianz, Wisconsin, at the Salvatorian Seminary, studying to be a priest.
True story. That is an absolute true story.
And As soon, in fact, I was coming back from breakfast after Mass on a Sunday morning, and I was on the stairwell going down the gym to play some pool, and the announcement came over the speaker system saying that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor, and I immediately knew I'd be leaving the seminary and joining the services. Because I come from a military family. My father served, and well, my father is a different story, only more fantastic than mine. And I had 5 brothers that also were served. Eventually, in my family, all of us served in World War II, except my youngest brother. I had one brother in the Navy was killed. He was a master machinist mate on a sub chaser, and he was killed off the coast of North Carolina, escorting a convoy on the 3rd of May of 1943. My oldest brother was in the service in 1933, and he was in the invasion of southern France and all through the war in Germany, and then went to Korea. And on the 3rd of November, he was killed when the Chinese went across the line.
Joe, talk about those relatives of yours who were on the other side.
Oh, I also had 2 cousins in the Luftwaffe, Hans and Heinz Peterburs. The Hans Peterburs was a fighter pilot that flew many of the different aircraft, and he destroyed. He had 18 kills and 20 on the ground in the air, 20 on the ground, and some another 20 some odd tanks, and he was killed was shot down by a Spitfire in January of 1944. And he had the Knight's Cross to the Iron Cross. His brother, Heinz, was in the defense of the Reich, fighting Me-109s against the bomber forces. And I could correlate at least 7 missions in which we were in the airspace at the same time. Unfortunately, on the 8th of April of 1945, he was shot down, and on the 10th of April of 1945, I was shot down, and we were both on the same mission on the different side.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. All right. Any other questions? Oh, we've got one over what direction? Okay, in the corner here.
Did you and that German pilot, did you do the Reading Air Show together in different booths? Years ago.
If you did the Reading Air Show with Walter in Reading.
With Walter.
With Walter, were you at the air show at the same
Yes. In 2007, I was at the air show with Walter Shuck.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, we got one right here. Go ahead, young man.
I just wanted to ask, when you had to bail out, what was your thought process? What did you think was going to happen?
When you bailed out, what was your thought process? What did you think
Oh.
was going to happen?
Well, I was just doing things automatically, the training. What I thought was, darn it, my mom's going to get a telegram saying I'm okay, because she was, I thought about my mom. I did, my thought, as far as danger or being afraid, I don't think I was, well, I know I wasn't afraid. I always kept my eye on the target, what my mission was, what I had to do, and I just concentrated on that. And I felt that if I let any of this other stuff interfere, I would not perform well.
Okay, thank you. All right, we got over here on the right. Go ahead.
I just had a question for Joe. I wanted to ask, after the war, when you became friends with Walter, did he ever say if he preferred the 262 over all the other planes he flew before that, the earlier P-51 109s, or did he like the 262 the best? Did he ever have any type of thought of that, or was the question arose?
He wants to know what did Walter consider the 262 his favorite airplane, or did he like others?
Well, we never did just talk specifically about whether he liked one aircraft or another, but I could tell by his conversation because he primarily talked about his time with the in the 109 and the different tactics he used there, because there was a lot of dogfighting there, and it was a more of an active thing, where it was more of a passive thing, not passive, but a cut and
just quick
run, hit and run sort of thing.
Yep.
So, but it was his flights with the 109 were a lot more interesting and exciting.
Understand. Okay, one right there. Go ahead.
What do we know of Walter's life after the war? Of his capture, did he end up in East Germany, West Germany? What did he do after
Did
the
Walter
war?
get captured when he got shot down? He got shot down in
oh yeah,
Germany,
well no,
right?
he got shot down, and he made it back to his base. He was telling me that he had had some help from the civilians, and they got him on a transportation system that brought him back to his base, and he got back to his base in Oranienburg, and he's going in, and he goes to his footlocker. He wants to get that bottle of cognac that he had been saving, and somebody had robbed him of it. They figured he was gone, and they took his, and he was really ticked off about it. But he did get back to base, and he was captured by the French, and the French, he was in a French prison for a while, and then after he got released, he was an instructor for I think the Syrian Air Force.
Okay. All right, last question. We got one more, and then that's going to be it. Go ahead.
Okay, not so much a question as it is a statement that my wife and I met Joe about 2 years ago, along with Sabrina, and it was a fantastic thing then, and that's why we're here today. As an author, I read Joe's book. I highly recommend it when this is done.
Hear, hear. And the books are for sale back at merchandise back there. He'll be signing, and you'll probably get some more stories, because I could sit here the rest of the afternoon and listen to these stories, I'll tell you right now. But with that, I'm going to say, first of all, Joe, it has been an absolute honor for me to be able to sit here and talk to you, get to know you a little bit, listen to your stories, and realize that as a 20-year-old, you went out there and did what you did. You did your job. I understand that. You were well trained, and you did your job. But then to continue and be able to pass it along to these folks here, that's even more important as far as I'm concerned. So I say thank you. It has been an honor. And Keegan, same thing. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having us, and Joe, thank you so much
And-
for everything.
And thanks for, hey, making this ME-262 happen. To you guys back there, hey, same thing, flying it here, getting it working, keep it flying. Isn't that what, we got to keep them flying. So that's what we're trying to do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. The next show this afternoon is, the star of the show is down there, that A-10, and we got a P-47 out here too. But in the meantime, Joe, stand up. I want to give you a round of applause. Maybe not.
A little too many. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. It is my honor and my privilege and my duty to serve my country for those years, and I'd do it all over again.
You've done it well. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Thanks, folks.
We were made for grass, made to feel the joy of each and every blade, between our toes, across our backs, to run over its hills, marvel at its beauty, and find comfort in its stillness. We were made for grass. It's where we battled and celebrated, built monuments, grew families, forged memories, and pushed ourselves farther than ever before. We were made for grass, to care for, nurture, and cultivate. We've always made sure to have a patch of our own, because there's no greater feeling than being on the grass, except leaving it.
On January 17, 1942, Chief of U.S. Army Air Forces Henry H. Hap Arnold assigned the responsibility for one of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's highest military priorities, a payback attack on the Japanese home islands, to one of the most famous aviators in history, Lieutenant Colonel James H. Doolittle. In a mere 66 days, Doolittle had identified the airplanes that could be modified to launch a carrier-based attack some 450 miles from Japan, had assembled the volunteer crews, modified the Mitchell B-25s to give them the range to reach a safe haven in free China after the raid, and accomplished the mapping and charting the crews would require. Now on March 23, 1942, Doolittle assembled the men who had been training for the mission at their training base near Fort Walton Beach, Florida. It was time to fly the planes west to the Sacramento, California Air Depot for final adjustments. As he had before, Doolittle offered any man who wanted to the ability to leave the highly dangerous mission without recrimination. None did.
You don't take off on a mission like this without a light at the end of the tunnel. We all thought that somehow we'd get out of it.
Well, in the training in Florida, we were always flying just above the water all the time, right down over the river valleys and between the trees. And then we head stopped all the way across the United States to Alameda, down as low as we could fly.
Yeah, I think Bill asked me if I would go as his co-pilot, and I said, well, of course.
Somewhere along the line, they interject the thing that it was a suicide mission. I don't think it was any more of a suicide mission than the guys taking off from England, going over to Germany. It was just signs of the times, and that's the way it had to be. And that's the way it was, and that's the way it was accepted.
I'm Gary Sinise, and this is Missions That Changed the War.
to me, lawn service is a scam.
There's no lawn service for you.
Unfortunately, I don't trust them very much because I don't know what they're putting down.
Nobody's going to pay attention to your lawn like you do.
It's the whole point of owning a home is that you maintain your own lawn.
We've taken care of this lawn from day one.
I take pride in it, and when people tell me it looks good, it makes me feel even better.
Do you use a lawn service?
Absolutely not. I have you.
I know what I'm putting down when I put Scott's down. I'm putting down a great product.
STS-27 was my third launch, and it was only the second launch after the Challenger accident. Well, I will never forget, we maneuvered the arm, and Mike Mullane was my arm operator, so he moved the arm over there, and we brought up the television image of the right wing, and I looked at what I was seeing, and I said to myself, we are gonna die.
You know, plants aren't so different from us, are they, Ryan?
Plants need food like people need food.
And that's right, and they do tell us what they need, like this really good organic plant food from Miracle-Gro.
It's just as important as soil, sunlight, and water.
Ryan the philosopher. And you know what this one is telling me? She needs a spicy martharita and a lounge chair by the pool. These peppers look hangry, Ryan. Feed them, don't just stand there. You know, we started this controversy about whether this is dirt or soil.
Everyone's all up in arms about it.
So what do you call it?
You say dirt, I say soil, you say soil.
When do I say soil? I never say soil.
You just did.
There was a day in 2011 when I'm told I was the highest person on Earth. Literally. On that day, I traveled to the space equivalent altitude of 70,000 feet.
Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow.
It was a voyage to the edge of infinity. For a few minutes that I will remember for the rest of my life, I stared through the frost formed on the canopy of our aircraft as deeply as I could into forever. I'm Gary Sinise, and this was my high flight.
Thank you so much.
There will be a time on Wednesday when you're the highest person on Earth.
Congratulations on that. Yeah. You got it. That'll be good for me. Good for the wall. How are you? I'm Gary. Thank you.
gathered to celebrate a life of relentless evil. And though I gave you a quick death, it was not mercy. It was Ortho Ground Clear Weed and Grass Killer.
Kill 'em all! Ortho Ground Clear kills really fast and for organic gardening. Speed you can trust.
So he comes back in a few minutes with a guy about his age, same size. He says, now this is the camp commander. And I said to myself, oh yeah, this was Saturday morning. I said, oh yeah, these guys were out drinking beer last night. They said, oh, we're going to have some fun with a new guy. He says, he asked, will you write your autobiography? I said, no. He talked in Vietnamese. He says, he asked you one last time? I said, no. He talked to me. He says, he orders you to write your autobiography. I said, I take my orders from the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. He talked a little more in Vietnamese, and he says, one more time? I shook my head. And the camp commander looks up in very good English and says, you will be very sorry. Got up and walked out. 2 or 3 minutes later, this big guy comes in, biggest Vietnamese I saw. And they put me on the ground, pulled my arms back up behind me. I couldn't do it again. My life depended on it. My palms were together behind my neck. I could scratch my neck. And they put Vietnamese handcuffs right there. And they walked out. And I thought, this ain't a big deal. About 5 minutes later, my hands were numb, my arms were numb, and shortly my shoulders were numb, and pretty soon my chest was numb. And it proved, for me at least, the whole point was, we can make you do it. What that sergeant had said. We'll show you that we run this camp. You'll do what we tell you to do. Then that night, when you were asking, this was really my low point. When I ate that meal and realized that I had been broken. And so I went over and leaned up against a wall, just slumped down, and there was one light way over in the corner. And I looked up, and it just kept attracting my attention. And I remember thinking it was like Moses in the burning bush, I guess. And I sat there and I looked at the light. And whether it was a split second or an hour, I can't tell you. But I had an experience of something happened to me, and it was all over. I feel very comfortable, very secure. You're going to live, you're going to get out of this, and you'll go home someday.
What do you love the most about air races? Camaraderie. Everybody is friends, everybody helps each other, and we're all very professional and have a great time.
Some say we're crazy. I'd put it more, we have a deep affliction and a commitment to the skills and the practice of aviation, and we love it.
Came for the airplanes and the races, but we keep coming back for the family.
The Section 3 people were just all over me, wanting me to autograph every part of their body, and it was great. I love Section 3.
If you like P-51s, if you like Warbirds, you like jets, you just like tinkering with airplanes, this is the place.
What's the best part about the air races?
Everything. It's the people that makes it unique.
Whole lot of love.
Whole lot of love.
Whole lot of love.
Whole lot of love.
Control, Sport Gold takes about 3 minutes from the start.
Sport Gold Flight Race Control, cleared onto the course.
Copy, cleared on the course.
230 at 17, gust 27, break.
Nice job, guys. Everybody lining it up. Looking perfect. Everybody hold what you got.
Bar none, this is the fastest motorsport in the world.
Base plane to race aircraft. Gentlemen, you're looking good. Gentlemen, you have a race.
Bobby Patterson, followed by Sweet and
That was fun.